We are just 3 days away from a partial shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security. The White House offering Democrats a counterproposal for their list of demands, but Democrats still not pleased. Politico reporting this: the Democrats' demands for ICE to obtain judicial warrants is dead on arrival, a complete non-starter for the president and some congressional Republicans. For more, we're going to bring in Republican Congressman from Indiana, Erin Houchin. Congressman, great to be with you today. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us. We don't really have any details on the White House's counterproposal, but as we mentioned, those judicial warrants really could be a red line. What would you like to see included? And do you think there is any hope that Democrats will negotiate and meet Republicans in the middle, or are we just headed towards a partial shutdown here?
Well, thanks for having me. I think it's most important to say that House Republicans did our jobs. We passed all of these funding bills out of the House of Representatives, including funding for DHS. Importantly, one of the things that the Democrats are negotiating on has already been funded in the One Big Beautiful Bill. We've already funded Border Patrol and ICE enforcement in the One Big Beautiful Bill. So what they're standing on right now is in opposition to funding for TSA, funding for FEMA, funding for the Coast Guard, and I think a lot of this is just performative. I do hope that they come to a resolution with the White House and will move forward with funding DHS, but it's important for the American people to know that ICE and Border Patrol have already been funded through our efforts in reconciliation in the One Big Beautiful Bill, in the Working Families Tax Cuts Act, and this is really just putting those other agencies at risk.
Yeah, I want to bring this up. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries was asked about possibly supporting another short-term funding extension, but he refused to answer. Take a listen.
I'm just curious if there's any chance you would vote for or allow your members to vote for a short-term CR to do a clean extension of DHS just to give more time for negotiations.
ICE is out of control right now. The American people know it, and ICE clearly needs to be reined in.
All right, I want to get your reaction to what he just said.
Again, I would say this is largely performative. I think that the Democrats probably are more concerned with stopping progress from the Trump administration on things like the economy. I think they're probably concerned with stopping the passage of the SAVE Act, which we will have in Rules Committee today, which is to require voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote in our elections. We think that's pretty standard, but the Democrats are in opposition to that, too. Again, I want to reiterate that DHS and ICE have already been funded to the tune of about $150 billion in the One Big Beautiful Bill. They are negotiating on standing on this line, which is really just putting TSA, FEMA, Coast Guard, and other DHS agencies at risk, which is not going to be supported by the American people. They don't want any kind of a shutdown, whether it's partial or not. I think we learned that in the 41-day standoff that the Democrats put forward at the end of the year. Time will tell, but I am certain that the American people don't want another shutdown, and they don't want problems with their air travel or getting FEMA relief to communities that are hit by natural disasters.
Absolutely. And we saw what happened recently with a huge storm and the ice storm, especially down south. What are you hearing from your constituents about this? What are they saying?
Well, my constituents largely support ICE enforcement. They support ICE removal of criminal illegal aliens who've committed violent crimes, and they continue to support the president in his efforts to do that. We certainly hear from constituents on the other side of this issue, but the vast majority of people in the district back home do support ICE. They do support removing criminal illegal aliens. It's interesting that the Democrats don't talk about victims like Laken Riley and her family, or Jocelyn in Texas. They don't talk about those cases where these are criminal illegal aliens who've been allowed into the country, terrorists who've been allowed into the country. These are very bad people that are in this country because Joe Biden left the southern border open, that ICE is trying to remove, and we have Democrat politicians, unfortunately, standing in the way of them doing their jobs to protect the American people.
Yeah, it really is mind-blowing. You brought up just a moment ago the SAVE Act. I want to talk about that. A Pew Research poll finds that 71% of Democrats and 83% of Americans overall are in favor of requiring voter ID to vote in elections, and it's pretty common sense. So, Congressman, why are the Democrats fighting so hard on this issue?
Well, honestly, it defies logic, but they have been fighting voter ID since these laws started to be passed, including in the state of Indiana. We passed one of the first voter ID laws in the country. We recently passed another voter ID legislation to require voter ID when people vote by mail. These are common sense provisions. Even though the Democrats have said that illegal immigrants are not voting in our elections, we have clear evidence that they were and that they are. And that's because the Voting Rights Act does not require proof of citizenship. And that's what we're putting in with the SAVE Act, voter ID and proof of citizenship to vote in our elections. We saw, in the last iteration of under the Democrat leadership in the House, they wanted to have universal vote by mail. That is the easiest way to institute fraud nationwide. And I'm not making any accusations on what they are or aren't doing, but I do know that Joe Biden, in executive orders, opened the southern border and allowed illegal immigrants in 2 executive orders to count in the census for the electoral apportionment for congressional districts. I think they do ultimately want illegal immigrants to vote. That is where they think they'll retain power to implement their liberal policies. But House Republicans, and I hope with the help of the Senate, will input these common sense reforms to our election system to make sure it is safe and secure, and it protects one vote, one citizen.
Representative Erin Houchin from the great state of Indiana, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today.